This video will teach you the most overpowered builds for each class. These are the builds only the best players know about. I'm a veteran player with over 3,000 hours of experience. On top of that, I decided to play each class to Vanquisher completely solo with random teammates. Struggling with the strengths and weaknesses of each class, I have gained an immense amount of knowledge that I'm going to share with you today. I may be the first person to have ever done this, and I feel that it gives me a unique perspective that you won't get anywhere else. Before we get started, if you want to support this channel, consider subscribing and clicking the like button below. It allows you to stay up to date with all my helpful Dark and Darker videos, and it encourages me to make more. Thank you for your support. The builds I'm showing you were focused for Arena. However, all of this information is applicable to building your class in all gear brackets, whether it's in the dungeon or in Arena. You just buy more budget options if you want to spend less money or lower your gear score. Keep in mind, the inventory gear swaps that I talk about are only applicable to Arena. This video is jam-packed with highly valuable information. I understand it's quite long, so feel free to listen to it play through in the background while you multitask. You're not going to want to miss any of it, as even listening to information about classes that you don't play can help you understand their strengths and weaknesses so that you can beat them way easier. Trust me, if you listen to this video all the way through, you'll gain so much knowledge that you will become a much better player. That being said, there will be timestamps, so you can just jump to whichever class you're most interested in. Feel free to bookmark this video and return to it whenever you need to learn how to build any class. Let's get started. Fighter has a lot of different things you can run. You can honestly take a lot of different skills and a lot of different perks. So we'll go over the ones that I think are the strongest, as well as the best combinations. This is kind of a PDR setup with a shield. You're going to run Swift almost always because it's so much movement speed that you're gaining from this perk alone, and movement speed is so good. And then you pretty much have to decide whether or not you're going to use a bow or a crossbow for your secondary. If you're going to use a bow, you got to use weapon mastery, and if you're going to rock the crossbow, then you don't need it. I also was running Demon's Glee, so you'll need weapon mastery for Demon's Glee, but there's a lot of different weapons you can use. We'll go over that later. Because we're running a sword mastery is very powerful. It also gives the extra 2 weapon damage and action speed to your lantern shield when you parry with it. So that added damage is actually really strong. And then we're running defense mastery just because our PDR is really high. You can see we're at 68, and that's not including having our shield out. So we're at cap with shield out. If you don't have really high PDR, this perk is not worth it. This perk is only worth it if you're able to get above 65%, because that's what the cap normally is. This brings your cap up to 75. So if you're above 65, definitely take this perk. If not, it's not worth running. For the different perks, Adrenaline Spike is not that great. I never ran it. Barricade is really good if you aren't already near cap. Like I'm already hitting 65, but if I was running lighter armor and I was, say around 60, then having Barricade is really good. The 50 armor and then the extra MR is nice. It also pairs really well with Lantern Shield because while you're in your defensive stance trying to block, you're getting the benefit from Barricade, as well as when you're actually proccing the parry and the knife is like coming out of the Lantern Shield, you're also getting Barricade for that entire duration of that animation coming out. So it's actually very high value, especially with Lantern Shield. Combo attacks, okay. Counter attack is really good if you have a heater shield, and I think that's the most consistent way to play fighter. It genuinely is having heater shield. You block an attack and then you follow up with a really fast attack, especially if you pair that with shield mastery, because you're getting 50% action speed on your next attack with shield mastery. So these two together are really powerful because you're gaining movement speed and then 60% action speed. Projectile resistance is actually kind of underrated. We have a lot of projectile reduction, 12.5%. Adding an extra 10 puts us up to 22. So basically rangers and any range damage that's a projectile like magic damage does significantly less damage, but it is hard because you have to pass up on a lot of other good perks. But if you're just genuinely trying to frontline for your team and you've got like a cleric on your team to heal you or a druid, it's actually not bad. I think people sleep on this. Dual wield is really amazing if you're doing the Demon's Glee plus Mana Sphere build, and I'll show you that build in a bit, but that's the only time you're really going to run this unless you're going Slayer. But Slayer is not that good in Arena, honestly, and having tons of PDR is just better in high gear. Talking about skills, Sprint and Second Wind, you can never really go wrong with these, although there are a lot of other options. You can run Taunt if your PDR is quite a lot lower, and then you're gaining magic resist and PDR from the Taunt. It's especially good if you're pairing it with a healer. Otherwise, Second Wind is usually going to be your best bet. Adrenaline Rush is not bad if you're running Demon's Glee Manosphere, and Breakthrough is really good. Tons of people are sleeping on Breakthrough. You ignore all hit slows, whether a bow hits you and slows you or a weapon hits you and slows you. It's especially good for pushing into wizards and sorcerers who are trying to peel you with Wind Blast or Ice Bolt. You just completely ignore it, run right through it and chop them up. Really, really incredible. And you can also just take breakthrough instead of sprint, because if you're running sprint, and let's say you're, getting close to move speed cap, as soon as you get hit by a longbow arrow or any spell or any weapon, it's dropping your move speed significantly. But if you have breakthrough, yeah, you're only getting 7, but you don't get any of the reduction if you get hit by anything. And it's very common to get hit by things and getting hit slowed. So breakthrough is really good, especially in arena. This just completely hard counters Sorcerer, by the way. Sorcerer can't do anything if you have breakthrough. You just run at them in a straight line. All of their self peel is contingent on knocking you back, and they can't knock you back with this, so they're just cooked. The others are kind of just whatever. They're kind of memey. Perfect block is not really that useful. Shield slam, they've actually buffed it quite a bit, but it is still kind of memey and a little bit troll, but it can be fun to use sometimes. Spell reflection is also not bad, but it's hard to get value out of it. I think if you're trying to counter spellcasters, you're better off just going breakthrough and sprinting straight at them. And victory strike's just also kind of whatever. We'll go into some of the build variations because I ran a lot of different things on my climb to Vanquisher. When you're running Lantern Shield, you can pretty much swap in a lot of different things. You can go Demon's Glee if you have Weapon Mastery and you're using a bow, or you can run Arming Sword, or you can run Warhammer. And if you're using Warhammer, you want to drop Sword Mastery because you won't get any value out of it. And this is going to give you 20% armor pen, and it'll give you armor pen on your Lantern Shield riposte as well, which is crazy. This is a really good combo. The only problem is the Warhammer swing is pretty clunky and it's very easy to block or parry with a longsword, so just be mindful of that. But the armor pen's incredible. And then the super common build that everybody runs in arena because it's insanely powerful, does a ton of damage, is Demon's Glee Manosphere. The Manosphere damage scales with your Demon's Glee because you have 1 magic weapon damage, so that scales up to an extra 5 and then an extra 2 true magic damage. So you're gaining 7 magic damage onto your Demon's Glee, so it's +8 with the Demon's Glee. Then you get another +2 here, and then over in your perks you're going to want to run dual wield, and you're getting an extra 10% action speed, because action speed is going to be the best thing to scale with your Demon's Glee Manosphere. You don't really care about physical power or magical power because so much of your damage is just on hit base damage and true magic damage, as well as you want to run true damage on all of your rings and your necklace and your cape and your glove slot, as well as true magic on your head slot. So you get a ton of damage in this Demon's Glee. You're gonna 3-shot squishy classes, swinging super fast, and pretty much nobody can contest your damage with this build. You also have really high resistances, and if you're running breakthrough, then nobody can stop you. You just run at them in a straight line, 3-shot them. It's really, really broken. Not gonna lie, I kind of hope the devs remove it, but until then, the build is insane. Definitely try it out. I brought swaps with me, so I have movement speed swap with these Lightfoot boots to add move speed rolls, and I also have some Brave Hunter pants. So this is really pumping up my movement speed and also my action speed. But you can see I'm going to sacrifice some PDR and a little bit of magic resist. So it just depends on what the matchup is, whether you need to be tanky or whether they need to be fast. So I always bring these with me as a swap. I also have a survival bow to bring instead of a longbow. If I'm fighting people really close range that are kiting me, you can switch to this instead of the longbow, but generally speaking, the longbow is going to be better. And then obviously, if you're not running Weapon Mastery, you're not running Demon's Glee or Manosphere, then you'd want to bring a crossbow. For your rolls, you're mainly going to be looking for physical damage reduction, flat armor, action speed, true damage, and maximum health. I'll just hover over my pieces and you'll kind of see what I've socketed in. One all attributes is also really good to have on your rings and your necklace. And you can see we're 173 HP without our weapons out, and we're near PDR cap, 173 HP. And honestly, physical power and magical power don't really matter. You just kind of ignore these. Higher is obviously better, but you never specifically go for them. We're looking for HP, magic resist, armor, action speed, and then true damage. With a build like this, you will absolutely dominate in the arena. All right, we've got Rogue. This is my Rogue arena build. I'm running Cutthroat and Hide. We're also running Poison Weapon. This is going to give us Heal Cut, which is really nice, as well as a bunch of magic damage on hit. Dagger Mastery is crazy. 15% physical damage bonus. It's equivalent to plus 15 strength when we're using a dagger. And then with our hide, we want to be able to move around on our hide, so we take stealth. And then when our hide breaks, we got our ambush bonus, which gives us another 25 strength on our next hit and 10% movement speed, most of the movement speed. So you're running it movement speed cap with weapons out normally with ambush. Very, very strong. And then Cutthroat is going to prevent rangers from being able to shotgun you or backstep away from you, so they die instantly without any counterplay. And same thing with casters. You get on top of a caster and they're Cutthroat. They can't peel themselves with any of their spells. They can't do anything really, and you just kill them. before the cutthroat even wears off. And then it's decent into frontline classes as well. Prevents fighters from being able to second wind or sprint, or barbarians from using their shouts. But mainly this is going to be used for killing backliners, casters, and rangers. We'll go over some alternative perks. Honestly, if you're running hide, I wouldn't take off either of these. I mean, you could take off ambush because you are pretty fast to begin with. Definitely keep stealth though. Back attack is decent. Creep is not that good for arena, but it's really good in the regular dungeon. There's some fun double jump builds that you can run, but I would take off hide if you're going to go double jump, or at the very least you could just use hide kind of like a sprint where you're getting the ambush bonus, and you could even take off stealth, and that way you're just using double jump for mobility, and then your hide button to proc your ambush to get more movement speed. It's not terrible. Hide Master is actually pretty good, but I would probably pair it with stealth so that you can move around while you're hiding. Jokester's okay, but you don't really need the extra stats that bad because you're already so geared in an arena. And Thrust is actually quite good if you want to be able to kill tanks and high PDR easier, but Poison Weapon already does a pretty good job at killing frontline characters. So I didn't find that I needed it. I could kill fighters no problem, even in full plate, and I was just running this setup most of the time. You can always go weak point as well and look to really kill frontline targets, but I think that Rogue is much stronger when you're using it to kill the squishy backliners and playing it like a backline assassin. Rupture is also not bad. Rupture is going to be good into everybody, which is kind of nice. It's very versatile. So if you have a team where it's like triple frontline tank, Rupture is still actually going to be quite useful. Whereas if you're against like, you know, fighter, barbarian, you're not really going to get any value out of cutthroat, hardly at all. So you're better off with Rupture or weak point. Problem is if you go weak point and you're up against wizard, ranger, warlock, you're not really getting a lot of value because they don't have a lot of armor, and you're going to really miss out on having cutthroat. So I find this to be the most powerful and versatile, and then Rupture is technically the most versatile, but I think it's not as powerful as being able to just hard counter all the backline classes because they just can't do anything. If you get on them and you cutthroat them, it's a guaranteed kill pretty much. So you see I've got double hand crossbow and I have some swaps. So sometimes if I'm finding I don't need the hand crossbow, I'll use lantern just for the stat stick, and you're not getting the minus 25 move speed from holding the hand crossbow in your hand. So it's quite nice. You're actually very fast. You're only negative 10. I mainly use Chris Dagger, but it is very personal preference. If you prefer Rondell, you can totally use Rondell as your main weapon. Or if you prefer Stiletto, you can also use Stiletto as your main weapon. You also pair Rondell with Stiletto for the extra armor pen and the stat stick of the Rondell, but it is going to be negative 20 movement speed for both of them. And I find usually just having the move speed from one Stiletto is better whenever I was running this. Stiletto, I think, is the best dagger for killing frontline tanks because you go for headshots, and headshots are really easy to land. Rondell is also not bad for killing tanks because you can just repeatedly 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And Chris Dagger is the best for diving backline classes that are trying to run away from you because it has the most reach, and it's got the 4-hit combo, and all squishy classes pretty much die within 4 hits. So you get the 2 sweeps that are pretty long range, and then the next 2 to follow up finishes them off. For our build, we're going to go Lightfoot boots with movement speed just to get as much movement speed as possible. And then for our pants, you go something like Brave Hunters or cloth pants or loose trousers. You can see I've got really good cloth pants here, so I stuck with these. Flat max health and vigor are going to be the best rolls for your legs and chest piece. Action speed, physical power, physical damage bonus are also really good. You can see I socketed them on here. True magic damage on your head slot to scale with your poison. And then you want true physical on your necklace and your rings and your glove slot. Ideally, you want 1 all on your rings and your necklaces as well. And basically, we just want action speed, strength, dex, physical power, true damage, and flat max health on any of these slots. I'm at 135 HP, which is a little bit low for an arena kit, but it's not bad. And you can see my action speed is really high, 34%. Anything above 30 is going to feel amazing with the Chris Dagger. We don't care too much about PDR or magic resist, but obviously like higher is better. Magic resist is pretty low in this kit. And physical power bonus being at 17 is pretty good, but mainly we want action speed to scale with all of our true damage. The physical power bonus is just kind of a nice bonus to have. And it's also going to go up a lot when we're in game holding a dagger out. Increases it by 15 here, and then another 25 out of ambush, so this actually goes super high. It goes up to like 58% with ambush proc and dagger mastery. I also have a swap for my headpiece just for whenever I was running into full frontline teams and I have to face tank fighters and trade with them, fighters and barbarians, I would switch over to my ruby silver cap because I didn't need the move speed as much, and I found that I could tank an extra hit or 2 with the extra vigor that I was getting and the armor rating and headshot reduction, because this has no headshot reduction. If you get hit in the head, you're getting like 1 or 2 tap basically. So this ruby silver cap actually helps a lot, but any leather cap would do, or even a shadow mask. You had a really good one. Then I had a little ring swap here just for when I needed more movement speed versus more HP, but obviously you could just get a much better ring. This is just what I happened to find. This ring's quite good with 1 all physical power and true damage. Just make sure at the very least you have true physical on all these slots and true magic on this one. As long as you have that, you're going to absolutely dominate an arena as Rogue. All right, this is the setup that got me to Vanquisher on Warlock. Caster Warlock, Torture Mastery, Vampirism. These two are a must-have if you're playing Caster Warlock. Anti-magic is also very important. You want to try and get to close to 40% magic resist, because if you get there, then anti-magic brings you up to 65% against all magic damage other than divine magic and a few other outliers, but you can check the wiki for that. Most magic damage, you're going to be at 65%. So you're going to be an insane magic damage drain tank. And then your last slot is pretty flex. Before the will changes, I was running Malice. You can see with my other golden chouses on, instead of my frostlight trousers, my magic resist goes up to 41%. So I'm at 65% cap with anti-magic while wearing these. But since they nerfed the magic power bonus, I'm not running Malice anymore. I started running Dark Reflect. But if you're spamming Dark Bolt a lot, you can run Dark Enhancement. Is not bad. If you want to do less damage but be even tankier and harder to kill, you can go Curse Mastery, because your curses are going to last longer. You get more ticks of the healing. This brings your survivability up a lot higher, but it reduces your damage by a fair bit because you have to wait a longer duration between reapplying curses. So I preferred having the more upfront damage, and that's why I was running Dark Reflect. That way, if somebody hits me, they get hit with Dark Reflect, and then I can Phantomize and get a lot of value out of it that way. I always ran Phantomize. You could run Blow of Corruption and smack them with the Blow of Corruption book or pull out your sword, but Phantomize is just so good for staying alive forever and kiting people infinitely. It also pairs really well with Flame Walk, so overall I think Phantomize is generally better for a Caster Warlock build. For my spells, you always want to run double curses, Curse of Pain, Power of Sacrifice, and then Flame Walk is really good. So is Hydra. Hydra can block off doorways. It can help you play around corners, or you can use it as a heal for yourself. You put it down and then double curse it and get your health back. Very, very strong. And then I'd say your last pick is the most flex. Instead of Bolt of Darkness, you could run Curse of Weakness. I also ran Spell Predation a lot. If you ever run into a Bard or a Druid, they get completely destroyed by this spell. Very, very outbroken. Obviously, if they don't have a Druid or a Bard, you don't really get much value out of this, so it kind of feels bad. But whenever they do have one, it's just like a free win. So honestly, this is a pretty good contingency plan. I like Spell Predation a lot. I actually ran it more often than Dark Bolt. And then Ray is really good if you're running Soul Collector and you can consistently get the 2 stacks. So you have to leave mobs alive for most of the rounds so that you can at least get your 2 stacks. And then you can pop out your Ray of Darkness with the 50% magic damage bonus that you're getting from the 2 stacks of Soul Collector. But it's kind of inconsistent in Arena. It's better in the dungeon. That's more of a dungeon build, I would say. And Eldritch Shield is not bad, but it does cost a fair bit of health to use on yourself, especially when you have Torture Mastery, and you don't really need it, honestly. You're already so tanky against magic damage that you're better off just hitting a curse and healing back the damage that you take, any of the magic damage that you're taking. So I like Spell Predation or Bolt or Curse of Weakness. Those are my top 3 for this final slot here. Talk about the gear a little bit. Basically, you want to get as much movement speed as you possibly can, as much magic heal as you can, lots of flat HP, and then try and get as close to 40% magic resist as you can so that you can be an effective magic drain tank. Then everything else is pretty much just a bonus. Buff duration is pretty nice to have for your Flame Walk so that it lasts longer. Same with your Phantomize. And then spell casting speed is also quite useful. So I have a few swaps here. When I need to really kite and have a lot of movement speed, I would run my movement speed gear with my spellbook because my spellbook's only negative 10 movement speed. And then I found when I didn't really need to kite desperately, I would run these pants to give me more casting speed so I can pump out spells quicker, as well as Mana Sphere does more damage. You get the 2 true magic damage on it, plus the 5 flat, and then the extra 2 knowledge and 2 will. Not a lot of Warlocks use this, but it's actually very powerful if you can get away with it. But again, it is 5 movement speed slower than the spellbook. And I brought this Occultist Robe swap for whenever I was against magic damage so that I could pump up my magic resist higher than the Ruby Silver Vestments. But you lose a little bit of movement speed. So it's 3 move speed less, but you're a more effective drain tank with the Occultist Robe. You're always going to run on Occultist Hood because of the flat magical healing. True Magic is the best stat for it, and then Health or Knowledge is good too. You're going to want to run Mystic Gloves for the magical heal again. Vigor and Will and Max Health, all good rolls. These are kind of our magic resist and spellcasting speed pants. And then for movement speed, we've got our Frostlight trousers here. Vigor, Max Health. Nice socket, it's buff duration. For our boots, you're always going to want movement speed, and then Max Health and Vigor are going to be great stats. Same with these boots here. Movement speed and a little bit more PDR. We can go a little heavier into PDR for against a bunch of Rangers. And then our necklace is always going to be a choker with magical healing on it and Max Health. Ideally, you'd want all attributes on here if you could find one. Rings are the same thing. You ideally want some all attributes on your rings. We only have it on this one here. And then true magical damage and magical healing is ideal as well. For our cape, Cloak of Darkness is going to be by far the best because of the flat movement speed. Just make sure you roll, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5% move speed bonus. And then you want true magic on it as well. And then for our melee weapon, I don't really use it that often, but whenever you're in a pinch, you can pull out a crystal sword. You can also do a void blade if you wanted to build one. Those are our stats. If I wasn't to bring any swaps, I would just go movement speed because that's going to be the most important stat in most scenarios. But it's nice to have some swaps for when you don't need quite as much movement speed. You can shift your power budget into some other areas. I even have a little ring here for even more move to squeeze out a little bit more movement speed when necessary. But I didn't really ever use it. That's the build. Pretty high HP, 144. Decent magic heal, but you could get even higher. My book only has one magic heal. I just didn't get a good one with +3. And my mana sphere doesn't have any on it, but honestly, it was fine. I was healing plenty, even with just 15, but the more you have, the better, obviously. You get a build like this, you can absolutely dominate with Warlock in Arena or in your HR dungeons, wherever you're taking it. All right, this is the frontline Warlock build. I don't think this is a very good solo build, but it's incredibly powerful if you have a healer teammate, like a healer druid or a cleric that's gonna pocket heal you. You're gonna run a demon armor so you can actually wear plate and get your PDR really high, and then vampirism is gonna help all that healing that you're getting from your healer teammate and from your potions that you're drinking. And then we're gonna have dark reflect, so if anybody is trading with you hit for hit, they're going to take some bonus damage here. And then anti-magic is just going to pump your magic resist by an extra 25%, which is massive. So here we're at about 30. We'll be at about 55% magic resist. If you can get up to 40, that's even more ideal. And then the most flex perk is going to be right here, where if you don't want to go dark reflect, you could go shadow touch to add that 2 true magic damage on hit. It's not bad. And malice was decent, but now they've nerfed magic power, so I don't think it's very worth it. And soul collector's not bad, but it's not the greatest in arena because it's kind of inconsistent getting your stacks. For our spells, we're going to run our Curse of Pain, Dark Bolt. You absolutely need this because otherwise you don't have enough range damage. You can get kited. So Dark Bolt's very important to be able to spam against ranged opponents. Summon Hydra is also really good at displacing enemies, applying a lot of pressure, or blocking off teammates from one another. And it's pretty low cost because we don't have Torture Mastery, so it doesn't cost very much HP to cast. Spell Predation is just going to absolutely destroy any druids and any bards in the enemy team. And then Power of Sacrifice you could use on yourself so that you get extra bonus damage, or ideally, I would probably run Curse of Weakness, honestly, instead of Power Sacrifice, just because you can debuff the enemy that you're fighting, and they're going to be significantly weaker. None of the other spells are really that useful for this build, although honorable mention to Eldritch Shield. Eldritch Shield is pretty good. It's got lower health cost because you're not running TM, so Eldritch Shield is not bad, but you can always just drink a Magic Protection pot and save yourself a spell slot. We're going to run Blow of Corruption in this pretty much every time. If you're up against another frontliner, the main strength of this Warlock, aside from it getting incredible value out of being healed because it has so much buff duration and magical healing bonus, is that you can cut the enemy frontliner's healing by 80%. So if you land this on their frontliner and they're getting healed by a cleric, the cleric is pretty much useless. The heals don't do anything. Meanwhile, you're getting full value out of your team's heals. It's also really strong because you can get near PDR cap or sometimes at PDR cap, especially with a shield out, and you can get near MDR cap with anti-magic if you're at up to 40% in this. So you're pretty much the tankiest class in the game. The only downside to compare to fighter is that you're going to be slower because you don't have the perk Swift and you don't have any movement speed skills like Sprint. But you get the benefit of being able to throw out debuff curses and spam Dark Bolts from a distance. For our gear, we're going to usually run a Golden Hound Skull, and you at least need True Magic on this. Then PDR, Armor, Health, MDR are all going to be good rolls. Knowledge is decent too because a little bit of spellcast speed can be decent for throwing out those Dark Bolts and those curses. Necklace of Peace is ideal with 1L attributes and True Magic especially. You can see I have an MR swap if we're against a lot of magic damage. I can always throw on a Fangs of Death necklace, and then I'm up near MDR cap just about. Chest piece, you're going to want to have max health, armor, MDR, PDR. Ruby Silver Cuirass is a really good option. You could also run a Fine Cuirass if you have a really good one, like a legendary one. And obviously for more budget options, you can run other things like Dark Plate and things like that. But in terms of crafting, Ruby Silver is by far the best. Then Ruby Silver Leggings, just because the 5 will is quite nice. Comes with PDR on it. It's less slow than the other leg pieces, but you could also swap it out for some other options like golden plate legs or ruby silver plate pants. You're just not going to have as much movement speed. They're definitely good options. Ideally, true physical socketed on the gloves, and any other good rolls like armor, PDR, max health, will are all going to be good stats. Max health and true magic damage on our rings, as well as 1L attributes, ideally. Same with that necklace, the 1L on the necklace, and then true magic damage on our cape. as well. For our boots, always going to have movement speed rolls on our boots. These are our tankier, slower boots. And then we have a swap to gain about 8 movement speed putting on these light foot boots. So if you need more move speed, you throw these on. You don't need the move speed as much. You're going to get more armor and PDR running these Frostlight rugged boots. More health as well. To cast, we're going to use our Mana Sphere. We're getting 2 knowledge, 2 will, 5 base magic damage, as well as 2 extra true magic damage. Really powerful. The best thing you can cast with pretty much is that extra true magic damage. And then we're using a Sovereign's Ghost Blade, or you could use a really good Crystal Sword. Alternatively, if you really needed a shield, you could go Heater with a Falchion, but the problem is the Falchion's not going to benefit nearly as much from your true magic damage on all of your rings and necklace and helmet slot. Overall, this build is decent on its own, but absolutely disgusting with a healer druid or a healer cleric pocketing you. Takes this build to the next level, brings it up to S tier easily. But remember, without a healer, you're going to be pretty slow, and even though you're very tanky, people are going to be able to kite you out because of how slow you are, and because you don't have any heals, they'll be able to take you out. So I wouldn't recommend this solo, but with a healer, absolutely go for it. You will dominate. This is the ranger build that got me to Vanquisher. We'll go over what I ran here. Nimble hands. This is non-negotiable if you're using a bow. If you're using a crossbow, which is super viable, crossbow is very strong, then you're going to swap out nimble hands for crossbow mastery. But if you're using a bow, it's always nimble hands. It's pretty much always sharpshooter, because if you land a headshot, the extra damage is just astronomical. You drop people like crazy with headshots. I would always run this no matter what build I'm running. Spear is easily the best weapon for ranger, so I'm always going to take spear proficiency. And then range weapons mastery is a little bit flex. You could go quick reload if you want, but I more so ran that with longbow, because the longbow reload speed, it benefits a lot from it. With recurve, you don't really need the reload speed as much, especially because we're running quick shot and multi-shot, which can act to essentially reload our bow. If you don't know, if you're at 0 arrows and you need to reload, you can pull quick shot and you'll still shoot 3 arrows even though you have 0 loaded. And same goes for multi-shot. You could have 0 arrows ready to go. As soon as you press multi-shot, you get 5 arrows ready to fire for that multi-shot, and you can even cancel it with F and then just fire off the 5 arrows normally. So it actually can act as a free reload instantly if you don't want to use the shotgun feature. I think this is the best setup for recurve, but alternatively, you could use backstep instead of the multi-shot and look to kite people out with backstep and spear. You could also run purge shot. It's going to completely destroy bards and druids, but if they don't have bard or druid, you're going to get a lot less value out of purge shot, so I think it's less consistent. Quickfire is also decent, but I think that the defensive options of backstep or multi-shot are ideal. And because we're running recurve, I think quick shot and recurve scale incredibly well together. Having that triple shot, it's really strong. But in theory, you could also run quickfire or purge shot, or if you really wanted to have a lot of defensive options, you could be backstepping and then have shotgun too. But I think this is overkill. You only need one or the other to defend yourself up close. I think quick shot is the best option. If you're running longbow, then that changes a little bit. I think that quickfire is incredibly strong with longbow. It also helps you reload faster if you reload while quickfire is active. And then shotgun is really good with longbow, and so is backstep. This is my preference when I'm running longbow, having backstep and quickfire, but multi-shot is also decent. And I know some people also like quick shot, and it's definitely not bad, but I don't like that you only get 2 arrows. I prefer that you get 3 arrows with recurve, so I like to run quickfire instead. If you're going to run a recurve, I would run a Centaur's Madness, because you're getting the extra 5% armor pen, and it makes a big difference. Although if you have a really crazy legendary recurve, then I suppose you could use that. For longbow, you're ideally going to want a legendary longbow. You're getting that extra armor pen, and the extra flat damage is way higher on longbow. Overall, I do think the longbow is better than recurve in most scenarios, but it's just so much fun to bust out the quick shot on your recurve, and you never really feel like you need to reload because you've always got either quick shot or multi-shot ready to go. You could craft yourself a spear, but I found a really good legendary spear in raid, so I decided to use that instead of the crafted ones. It honestly doesn't matter whether you go with a frostlight spear or a spear of rot. They're pretty similar. You get 1 true spear of rot and you get an extra 4 movement speed with frostlight spear. I tend to prefer frostlight because I like the 4 movement speed. It's pretty good, and it's actually cheaper to make normally compared to the spear of rot. For your gear, action speed is really good. I like having 30% or higher. You can see I've got 41%. That's going to make your longbow and your recurve have way more uptime, and it's a little bit less punishing if you happen to miss, because you can rack that next arrow that much quicker. Having decent move speed is also important. I have a swap here with some lightfoot boots to bring me up to 312. You honestly don't need that much movement speed, especially in arena, and especially if you're running shotgun. By the time they get to you, you just blow them up with shotgun and finish them. You don't really need to be running any further. So I found myself honestly running around at 306 most of the time, and it was completely fine. I like having a lot of armor pen. You can see I was even running the cobalt leather gloves, giving me 3.5%. And then even the Lightfoots, when I put them on, we're up to almost 16%, plus the 15 or the 20 from our bow. So we have a lot of armor penetration. We're cutting through PDR pretty significantly. You can see our physical power bonus is around 18%, then an extra 5 from the perk. And then usually our bow also has some physical power and physical damage bonus on it. Ideally, you can get this higher and as high as you can. You can even sacrifice some of the action speed for the physical power, because if it's the difference between killing somebody in 2 hits versus 3 hits, that makes a huge difference, obviously. But you're going to feel the action speed difference. And I think having more action speed is more fun. It makes the Ranger class feel more fluid. So I crafted some Ruby Silver Adventurer boots, crafted myself some Brave Hunters. These are easily going to be the best in slot because they're going to give you movement speed and dex. And then you can socket some good rolls, flat max health, physical damage bonus, action speed. You want true physical on your gloves, guaranteed. True physical on your rings, true physical on your necklace, ideally a frost amulet, so you can get 3 or more true fizz on it. And then ideally you also want all attributes on your rings. I only have it on this ring, and this ring is crazy good. I got really lucky having found this. And then Wanderer Attire, I think, is the best chest piece because you're getting 6 stats total and only -4 movement speed. So you're getting dex and strength. And then I socketed some max health and physical damage bonus and then action speed. If you were to craft a chest piece, I would normally craft the Ruby Silver Doublet. Golden Padded Tunic is a decent option as well, depending on whether you want more dex or you want more strength. And then ideally you want a dex or a strength cloak. Then we socket some action speed, true physical, we can armor pen, all good rolls. So flat max health, dex, strength, action speed, physical power, and non-negotiable is going to be true fizz on your rings, necklace, cape, and gloves. And then ideally 1 all on your rings and necklace as well. Forest Hood's really good because it gives you magic resist. And then we're getting some nice 5 strength on there. We got a dex roll and some armor pen as well. We've got our 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 true damage adding on top of our bow. That's the most important thing, is that you have true damage no matter which bow it is. That's going to add the most damage. And yeah, if you get a kit somewhat similar to this, you are going to absolutely dominate in arena. Ranger is so strong, especially now that they've toned down magic power bonus. Ranger is easily the strongest backline damage class, even when you're punching through PDR, which you can do pretty easily with armor penetration. I think Cobalt gloves are a really nice budget option, especially because you get that free armor pen roll. But if you wanted more raw stats, you always go over to the leathersmith, craft some Frostlight riveted gloves. These are a good option as well. You could also go Frostlight Lightfoot boots for more movement speed. But I really like that armor pen that I was getting from the Cobalt Lightfoot boots, and I didn't really find I needed every little point of movement speed, especially with backstab and shotgun. Have your back. But yeah, get in there, try it out, crack some skulls with Ranger. This is the barb build that got me to Vanquisher. So for our perks, we're going to run Robust and Iron Will. These are non-negotiable. We are always running these no matter what. You cannot take these off, whether it's arena or the normal dungeon. They're too strong. The flat max health scales really hard with Barbarian. See, we take it off, look how much health we lose. So we always run this. Iron Will, similar. It's just so many free stats. We got our magic resist 40% down to 25. Tons and tons of free stats. Also, the knockback reduction is insane. You completely destroy all knockbacks with this on, especially sorcerers. Sorcerers, the only way they can self-peel themselves is by knocking you back. And you put this perk on, there's nothing they can do. You're unstoppable. Sorks are completely useless. All right, our other perks, they're pretty flex. I was actually running these in the regular dungeon, not in my arena kit. In my arena kit, I was running Morale Boost. Insanely strong in arena. Honestly, it's almost a non-negotiable with how good it is in arena. It's also pretty good in duos and trios in the normal dungeon. And then our final perk is relatively flex. I was running Berserker. I think Berserker goes really well with it. Barb's aggressive playstyle. You can play super aggressive, knowing that you've got that morale boost to pump your health back up after you get the kill. And Berserker lends really well to that. Because as you get lower, you're doing more and more damage. And that physical power bonus, the physical damage bonus, scales really well with your hard-hitting barb weapons because you already have really high base damage. I think this is an amazing perk. This is the setup that I usually ran, but Potion Chugger can be quite good at minimizing poke damage. If you want to bring a lot of pots in, you get much more value out of your potions. Two-hander is also not terrible. You're getting some extra armor pen, 5% physical damage bonus guaranteed. Other than that, there isn't really anything else unless you are using primarily only axes or like felling axe, then axe specialization is quite good. Crush is amazing in the normal dungeon when you can break doors and it's important to break doors, but in arena it's not that important to break doors, so I never ran Crush. Yeah, it does help you break the guard of things like heater shields, but honestly you can play around them without it. I don't think it's necessary. I think you get a lot more value out of something like two-hander or my preference is Berserker. Then for our skills, Rage is pretty much non-negotiable. I tried taking off Rage and you just get kited to hell. You don't have enough movement speed on your own. You don't have any move speed steroid. You're just gonna get kited and it's kind of cooked. I've seen other barbarians try to make it work and it never works. So Rage is pretty much non-negotiable. This is a lot more flex though. I tried a lot of different things. I tried War Cry. I tried War Sacrifice. This one's honestly pretty bad. I don't recommend it. I did Achilles. Achilles is really good. Lock your target down. You hit them once. They can't move. They are pretty much dead unless they are a PDR fighter. Savage Roar is also quite good. It makes you so much tankier because you're reducing their physical damage bonus by 30%. That's a lot. They're going to do a lot less damage to you. That HP that you have is going to go much further. It's also good if you have teammates. Kind of peels for your teammates a little bit, making your teammates take less damage. But I found the absolute best thing to run was Reckless Attack. That's because there is a ton of PDR, ton of really high PDR in Arena. Lots of fighters walking around with 75% PDR. They think they're invincible. You throw on Reckless Attack, you headshot them with Reckless Attack, you almost one-shot them with a headshot. It is disgusting. My climb got so much easier and I skyrocketed up to Vanquisher as soon as I took off Achilles. So I was switching between Achilles and Warcry. I put on Reckless, boom, started winning games left, right, and center. Hard carrying games. Reckless Attack is crazy good and it's good into everybody. You think that, oh, it's only good into PDR. No. Say you're up against a magic class that's, you know, you got a wizard, he's throwing fireballs at you. You got a Sork, he's throwing spells at you while he's trying to kite away. Reckless Attack, you don't care about the armor rating loss against a caster class, and the Reckless Attack is going to smoke them like they're wearing no clothes at all. So you can pretty much two-shot any squishy class, sometimes one-shot them. You hit a wizard in the head while he's trying to magic missile you, one-shots him with Reckless Attack. Really, really strong. Sure, you can hit him with Achilles and then kill him in 3 hits because he can't get away, but he can't get away when he's dead. So you can 1 or 2 shot him with Reckless Attack. Really strong. You just have to play around the fact that you're losing 85 armor rating whenever you proc this, and you're losing 15% physical damage reduction with this. So you're a lot less tanky when you have these active. You have to be smart about when you use it. Usually you want to use Reckless Attack right before you're going to swing on whoever you're going to hit. That way it's not up for very long. You don't have the debuff of the negative 85 armor rating. So you minimize that debuff time by using it right before you swing. A really good tip. I found Zweihander was my favorite, especially pairing it with Reckless Attack. It's got the biggest reach pretty much out of the barb weapons, so you can just hit them with the very tip of it before they can hit you, and that way you never get hit with the armor rating debuff on you and you hit them first and you absolutely chunk them. I also socketed some armor pen onto this Zweihander just to scale even further with that 75, so now we're at 81, and then if you ran the perk you could be at 86. So yeah, armor pen is very good. We also have some armor pen on our boots actually, so in total where's our armor pen at? 3.5 with our boots, so we're at 85ish. We could be at 90 with that perk if we wanted, but I think Berserker is better just because you're getting so much physical damage bonus as you get lower HP, and then as long as you win that fight and that 1v1 at least, you get that morale boost. This allows you to mow through teams, by the way. You kill the, you know, you could be a sliver of HP, you kill the first guy, and boom, you're half HP just about. Kill the next guy, you're up to 2/3 HP or higher, and you just finish off the last guy. The carry potential is so crazy with morale boost if you're doing trios or you're doing arena, because that's, you know, 2 people that you can heal off of before having to fight the final guy. You can easily 1v3 with this. Then for your secondary, having a round shield is really good just to be able to take space and advance. And if you're chasing, Zweihander is already really good at chasing because you can just have fists out and then you can jump swap and then swing, and it's got really good reach. But if you really want to run somebody down, you could run Troll's Bane as well. And then another really good option is going to be Felling Axe. Felling Axe is really good at dealing with PDR fighters, and it's really good against Longsword because Zweihander can be parried by Longsword pretty consistently. So I bring Felling Axe specifically for Longsword because it's the best weapon to deal with it. For our gear, I've got a couple swaps here. I actually just found this recently. I never ran this, but I was running this and this. So if I wanted to be slower and tankier for my team, say I had a healer on my team and I was fighting a lot of frontline units that were not planning on kiting me, they're just fighting me up close, I would switch over, and if I had to chase anybody down, I would switch over to my movement speed gear. So I like the Cobalt Lightfoot boots, giving me that extra armor pen and the movement speed. If I didn't need the movement speed, then I would switch over to something like these for more dex. Ideally, the most important thing you're looking for, honestly, is going to be HP, movement speed, and dex. Action speed is really nice because you're already hitting really hard. You already have a lot of physical power bonus and a lot of strength. You're getting even more with rage that you just want to be able to swing faster. So having dex and action speed's quite nice, as well as, you know, more vigor and HP to really get value out of your robust and get your HP up. Magic resist is also great. You know, we're at 40% with our Iron Will perk on, and it goes even higher, 47 we put on our tankier kit, and 46% PDR. And obviously we put this on and then we put a Torque of Soul, we go even higher, 55% magic resist. That's using a bear pendant. Now usually Necklace of Peace is the best thing you can run, but with Barbarian because of robust, the way that it works. Bear Pendant is actually quite good. You get a lot of value out of the vigor. So I had this nice one with max health, all ats, and then I socketed action speed. You can also do true physical on this. And I socketed some max HP. It's got 1 all, and then double PDR, 1 all, 2 max health, action speed. I actually think in hindsight, I would have put true fizz on all of my rings and leaned a little bit less into the tanky PDR, just because a lot of the time you don't have a healer when you're playing arena unless you're queuing with one. So having more flat true damage is better for carrying your games. True damage in your gloves is also good. And then Brave Hunters are pretty much the best pants because you get movement speed and you get a ton of action speed, and you can socket some max health, action speed, physical damage bonus. Ruby Silver Doublet is probably the best damage chest piece you can get for Barb. Look for 2 vigor, 4 max health, and then I rolled some action speed and some armor rating on it as well. Barbuda Helm is one of Barbarian's best helmets because you're getting 30 magic resist on it and some really good armor rating. And then you're getting 5 dex. And again, we love dex on Barb. And then look for some vigor, max health, action speed are all good rolls. 1 all attributes on your rings and your necklace if you can get it. This is an amazing cape. Max health, vigor, true physical damage. So 195 HP, 30% action speed, 300 move speed, 304 with our life up boots. Could even go higher if you wanted. But with rage, we're already at cap. So I didn't really find that I needed much more movement speed than that. And then pretty good PDR at 32%, even with our light kit on. And tons of magic resist, especially with that perk, 20% physical power bonus, which is quite nice. So yeah, you put something like this together, you will absolutely dominate in the arena, and I highly recommend running this perk setup with these skills. You will rock it in rank in arena if you run this. Best of luck. For Cleric, this is the build that got me to Vanquisher, playing solo. So we've got Advanced Healer. If you're running any heal spells, this is non-negotiable. You always take Advanced Healer. 5 magic heal is really strong. See, without it, we are only at 3. This is bumping us up to 8. A really good perk. Faithfulness, an amazing perk. It's gonna slow them whenever you hit them with divine magic, which is your smite, your judgment, or your damage spells. It's going to slow them and deal 15% more damage. Really amazing perk. And then because we're running a fair bit of heals, we're going to get a ton of value from overheal. Really, really strong perk. Perseverance, 2 less damage from all types of damage. This is just a great perk. You're taking less damage from everything, and especially things that are doing damage over time, like Warlock Curses, for example. Every single tick is going to do 2 less damage. That's going to tickle you. Perseverance is a great perk. Another good option is Protection from Evil. It's going to reduce the duration of a curse from Warlocks on you, and hit slows are also going to be lasting 30% less long, which is pretty good. So overall, you can run Judgment if you want. It's quite good, but I found that a lot of the time I was getting jumped by classes like Rogue or Panther, and the Judgment just isn't enough damage to trade back with them. So your best bet is Smite, because the moment they dive you, you can pop the Smite, and then you can actually trade a lot more damage back on them, sometimes even beating them. Because Rogue and Panther are so good at diving you from behind, I think Smite is a much better perk. As well, it's more of a carry perk. If you're fighting like a frontliner, you can actually go toe-to-toe with them a lot of the time with that extra Smite damage. It's a lot of extra damage on hit, but it's a little bit personal preference. You can also run Judgment if you want. For our spells, we've got 3 of our heals. So we've got Lesser Heal. That's for ourselves and for our teammates. Holy Light, specifically for our teammates. And Sanctuary, for a big AoE heal for us and our team. And then our main damage spells are going to be Holy Strike and Locust Swarm. Locust Swarm especially is an amazing spell. It cuts their healing and it does so much damage. If you throw it dead center on somebody, they have to get out of it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, it melts their HP and it'll kill them if they stand in it. You have to respect this. And even if they're getting healed by a teammate, it doesn't matter because you're cutting the healing by so much. So they have to respect it and get the hell out of it. Really good for dealing damage and really good for controlling areas because people can't sit in it. If you have them cornered and they're stuck in an area and you throw down the Locust Swarm, well, they're just cooked. There's some other things you can run. Protection got nerfed really hard, so honestly, it pretty much sucks. Bless also got nerfed really hard, so it sucks. Divine Strike's okay if you have a teammate that you're always playing with, like a ranger, and you're just trying to buff them. Bind is really good for helping your teammates kite, but we just don't have room for it. And Earthquake pairs really well with a ranger or a wizard or a sorc, but again, we don't have space for it, and I'm assuming you're just being as versatile as possible with these spells, queuing solo in arena, and even with a team. These are going to be really good, but it is something to consider. If you have a coordinated team, you can Earthquake for your team, and they can land fireballs and easy range damage with Sorc and Ranger. And then Resurrection's amazing in the normal dungeon, but it's not very good in arena. I wouldn't really recommend running it. It's too difficult to get it off. For our gear, 1 all on our rings and necklace if we can get it, and then True Magic, ideally having a choker, and additional or True Magic on our rings, ideally have True Magic on our helmet slot. And then magic heal on our rings is also quite good. I don't have any here, but I have 1 magic heal on my necklace. So you can see my magic heal is pretty low in this kit. It could be a lot better. We've got 2 magic heal on our chest piece. Another good spot to have magic heal. And then you can run magic heal on your gloves as well. I don't know where my gloves went. I had a pair. Here they are. These are the gloves that I was using. You're getting some nice little magic power and then 3 magic heal and you get 1 extra move speed. It's quite nice. These rolled pretty low, only getting +1, so it's kind of a bummer, but Frostlight Mystic gloves are a really good option. Or just regular Mystic gloves that you find in the dungeon. Epic or legendary. You can see we're really fast. We're almost movement speed cap 324. We've got the Frostlight trousers and the Lightfoot boots with move speed rolls on them. And then our Cloak of Darkness is giving us a ton of movement speed as well. Make sure you get True Magic on your cape. And these 3 together are just pumping our move speed like crazy. We also have a swap. We have these really good other shouses. So whenever I don't feel like I need the movement speed, I'll always be going to be wearing these because our spellcasting speed is going to jump a lot while wearing them. Our HP is also higher, and so is our PDR and MDR whenever we're wearing them. So if we don't need the move speed, I'm wearing these. Necklace of Peace is also a really good option. Like this one's quite good. 3 magic heal, 1 true magic. Fangs of Death is not bad to have as a swap. If you're against a lot of magic damage, you could always throw this on and you pump your magic resist even higher. But I find it's usually not necessary. Spellbook, get some magic heal on your spellbook is ideal. Maybe some magic damage bonus. And then for our shield, doesn't really matter. You could have a buckler or a round shield. Ideally, a heater is best. I just didn't have a good heater, so I decided to run this buckler here. And then there's a lot of decent options you can use for your weapons. Your maces, you could run Morningstar is one of the best. You can also run Flanged Mace, or Warhammer is quite good as well. Warhammer swings fast, so it actually scales pretty well with Smite because you're going to deal Smite on hit, right? And if you're hitting faster with Warmail, it's quite good. But Morningstar is going to have the biggest hit slow and do the most upfront damage per hit. I like Morningstar a lot. And then this is just a heads up, you can transform this build pretty quickly into a melee cleric build. You throw on something like these, cloth pants, maybe some of these here. Build's gonna be quite similar. You want movement speed, so you can always wear the Frostlight trousers, or you can switch over to the cloth pants for the action speed. And for our helmet slot, something with more action speed, so maybe like a Spangen helm. Also quite fast to get some agi with it. You just want more action speed ideally to scale with that smite. And then I'll show you how to change it up a little bit if you wanted to go melee cleric. I ran this quite a bit and it was actually really fun. Also different gloves. I would go for light gauntlets. Light gauntlets are arcane gloves. Light gauntlets, you get some true physical on it. And then we're going to take off our spell memory. We're going to run divine protection. Take off our overheal and our advanced healer. We're going to run blunt weapon mastery. It's going to give us 10 strength worth of damage when we're swinging our mace. And we're going to run protection of evil. Now you can see with our PDR, with our shield out, we're closer to 35%. Then you add another 30, we're at 65%. We're at the PDR cap. So we are as tanky as a fighter can get at 65% PDR. And we're insanely fast wearing cloth gear. Now it only lasts a few seconds. It's about maybe 6 seconds with our buff duration bonus. Let's keep that in mind. But that's usually all you need to take somebody out. You just pop it right before you swing on them, both your smite and your divine protection, and you can go toe-to-toe with most melee classes. Very strong build and very easy to switch over your normal healer build into this build if you want to do this for fun. You could optimize it a little bit further. You could run some boots with more dexterity if you didn't need quite as much movement speed, just so that you can swing faster, because again, our action speed is a little bit low, only at 10%. And another option would be, instead of the ruby silver vestment, go over to the tailor and craft ruby silver doublet for that extra 5 dex. We lose 2 movement speed, but we gain 5 dex, which is a lot of action speed. That's something to consider. And those are the best cleric builds, and that's what got me to Vanquisher. Try it out. I hope you have fun with it. I'm going to show you how to make a disgusting Panther Druid build. I climbed to Vanquisher with this, and it is super easy to climb. Very OP build. Basically, we're going to run Shapeshift Mastery. This is non-negotiable. Allows us to change our forms instantly. Very important. Then enhance Wildness. 5 extra move speed in our forms, and 10 armor rating. To be fair, if you have enough movement speed, you could technically drop this. The 10 armor rating is nice, but it's not necessary. But in theory, if you're only playing Panther, then you might actually not need that extra 5 move speed, because you might already be past movement speed cap. So you could consider running something else like natural healing, but this is what I was running. And Dreamwalk is also really good, because if you ever switch into human, you can tank a free hit and not get finished off, and you can basically get distance and then transform again. And you can also cast your heals while you're in Dreamwalk. Dreamwalk is just really good. The other benefit is that you can hit people with spear, and then if they get in too close, it'll proc Dreamwalk. Like for example, you're fighting a rogue who's stabbing you with his dagger, he gets 1 stab off, you go into Dreamwalk, and then you can kind of reset and get away from him. Whereas if you didn't have this on, you would just die to the druid and you wouldn't be able to get away. Or sorry, die to the rogue. I like it a lot. Sun and Moon's great. You're getting 3 bigger and 5 magical power. The 5 magical power is scaling with your heals. Another honorable mention is natural healing. Just helps you to heal up faster when you take a reset, and constantly ticking to heal you every once in a while on your teammates. Definitely a good option. Thorncoat I don't think is that good unless you're playing for bear, and I'm not really playing for bear in this build. Spear Magic Mastery is actually fairly decent. The 10 magic power works whenever you cast your heals. You get more powerful heals when you use it. Spirit Bond is not very good for this build. Life Bloom Aura would not work because it disables our shapeshift. Purple Sensing is obviously just a meme. And Force of Nature is also not great. It's okay. You'd only really pair it with natural healing so that you'd always get benefit from it. But even then, it's only 3 Fizz power. For our spells, we're going to run our Nature's Touch and our Restore, running Dreamfire to scale with our Nature's Touch. So whenever you Dreamfire somebody, if your Nature's Touched, it'll heal you or heal your teammate with a burst amount based off of the Dreamfire damage. Going to run Treant. Treant's really good. You block off doorways and just be a real pain in the ass for the enemy. And then Mending Grove to help us reset quickly. So we use our Nature's Touch, Restore, Mending Grove to quick reset. Honorable mention is actually going to be Orb of Nature. This is new. I haven't tried using this really yet, but it deals 15 damage on hit and then grants Nature's Touch to your teammates. So if you wanted to poke the enemy, you could definitely use it a little bit, but it deals the same damage as Dreamfire and you don't get the burst heal out of it. So I'd probably just stick with this, but Orb of Nature is also not a bad flex option. For our Shapeshift, we've just got the regular ones and you can basically move them around to whatever you feel is most comfortable for you. I think this is just the default. We'll go over the gear. So you can see I'm only 35 agility. You can easily build, I crafted most of this kit and I do not have bis rolls on pretty much any of it. And I'm still dominating in arena. I had no problem hitting Vanquisher. Panther Druid is massively overtuned and honestly, you can get way higher agility and deal even more damage. I've had a lot of Druids two-shotting me in Panther when I'm playing other classes. And I'm probably not two-shotting most people. I'm 3 or 4-shotting them. If you had more agility, you could easily two-shot people. You're gonna pretty much always want to run Spear for your human form. It's just a great weapon and adds a lot of versatility to your build because your other forms are going to be close range and then Spear can help give you some of that long range damage for when it's necessary. And then I like Cyclops Vision Crystal because you get 2 knowledge while holding it. So you get a little bit of mem cap and casting speed. Then it gives you strength and dex to scale with Rondell Dagger. So you can defend yourself up close if you need to. You're going to want to run true damage on your rings and your necklace and your gloves. And ideally you want 1 all attributes on your rings and your necklace, and you want true physical damage on your cape, and then you're basically just going to look to build as much agility as you can. So you can't get any agility on gloves unless you were to make some Grave Wolf gloves, so you could always do that and get an extra 3 agility. These are definitely a decent option, but having something like these Frostlight riveted gloves are also a pretty good option. You can put 1 or 2 agility on them. The Panther also scales with the strength because it scales with physical power, so physical power is quite decent to have as well. But most of your damage is coming from the agility, your action speed, and then the true damage on your necklace, rings, cape, and gloves. You can craft yourself some Frostlight trousers for that 5 agility, or you could find some legendary 5 agility loose trousers in the dungeon. Just get, action speed, max health, physical damage bonus are the ideal rolls. Find yourself some lace turn shoes in the dungeon, and you could socket some strength, fizz power, max health, and movement speed on them. You easily find some legendary ones with 6 agility, get that agility even higher. And then ideally your rings should actually be rings of quickness, some agility rings with 1 all. But I didn't play much Druid in the dungeon. I mostly did it in arena, so I had to craft mine, and crafting Grim Smells are not a big deal either. Especially if you get 1 all on them, because then you're getting 1 agi from each ring, and you're getting some health with that vigor and some damage with that strength, which is not bad. It also means that because I have 28 strength, I could also go into bear and do a little bit of decent damage in bear, although 28 isn't the highest, that's for sure. Make sure you can adventure cloak, ideally legendary, so you're getting +4. I only have an epic, so I get +3. Make sure you have true fizz on it. Then you can craft yourself a Frostlight Warden outfit, or find yourself a legendary one with 6 agi on it. I crafted mine, put some max health on it and some physical damage bonus. I'd also probably socket action speed instead of the knowledge, but I actually need the mem cap. Actually, no, I don't need the mem cap anymore. If I wanted to improve these, I would add action speed instead of knowledge. Then get yourself a forest hood, ideally with 2 agility on it. I had to socket mine and I only got +1. Kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. And then you can either get a frost amulet with true physical damage and 5 max health, or you could get a agility necklace. If you get like a legendary agility necklace, a lot more agility. So you could easily be 40+ agility and have your Panther absolutely cook. But even with 35, I'm destroying people up to Vanquisher, no problem. So you don't need a crazy kit. You can just throw something together like this, find it in raid or craft it like I did. Doesn't even have to have the best rolls on it. Just make sure you're getting, a decent bit of agility and you just destroy people with it. I'll quickly show you the healer druid build. That's what I built first. Change my skills and perks over to the healer druid build. We take off shapeshift mastery. We take off shapeshift memory, put on 10 spell. We go dreamwalk, natural healing, life bloom aura, and then last slot's kind of flex. I usually went sun and moon to give me and my team an extra 3 vigor and 5 magical power. Also go spirit bond, and spirit magic mastery is also a pretty good option. So is thorncoat, because whenever you're getting attacked, you're healing yourself a bunch. They're taking 5 true damage. This is more of a selfish kind of carry version of it, but it works decently well. Then we're going to run our 10 spells here. Most important spells are going to be Nature's Touch, Restore, Tree of Life, and using Dreamfire to get more value out of Nature's Touch. And actually with Orb of Nature now, you can Nature's Touch your ally and then proc Dreamfire on it as well. You can proc Dreamfire off of either of them, which is pretty cool. And then you get more memcap in game because you're holding the Cyclops Vision Crystal, which is giving me 3 extra memcap. So I'm actually at 36 here. Take this off, and then I just don't bother with Barkskin Armor. This is honestly not that important. Then you get your utility of being able to Thorn Barrier people off, Entangling Vines, Summon Treant. Really powerful utility. And the heals are absolutely crazy. Since the changes, they nerfed Cleric by nerfing Will, and now this healer Druid build is easily the best healer in the game. With this perk, Life Lumara, you've got the nature's natural healing and their heal over times. Unprecedented the amount of heals that you'll get. Much better than Cleric now. We'll go over the gear a little bit. 10 magical healing, the more the better. Get some magical healing on your chest piece. You can get it on your weapons as well. You've got 2 magic heal here. I like Rondell. I think Rondell is the best pairing. The Cyclops Vision Crystal. Also run Lightbringer if you wanted. It's not bad, but I think Rondell's even better. And then Spear is nice so that you have some extra range. You don't have to commit so hard when you're fighting people. And you can kind of hit the enemy over your teammate's shoulders when necessary. You're going to need a lot of knowledge for this build. So I ran Coif and Golden Shouses, giving me 10 knowledge just from those 2 pieces alone. I like Frost Amulet a lot because it's going to scale with your Rondell and with your Frostlight Spear and give you a little bit of damage so that you're not completely useless on your own. And then True Physical Damage on your rings is really good to scale with the Rondell. Same with your gloves. And I like the Demon Grip gloves because you get 3 magic heal on them. And then my favorite chest piece is the doublet for the 5 decks, giving me a lot of action speed. That action speed, you can see I'm at 17%. It's going to scale really well with our Rondell dagger and all the true damage we have on our necklace, our cape, our rings, and our glove. Then more decks on our boots. Pretty decent move speed, 5 decks on those. You can also bring some Lightfoot boots if you need more movement speed, but I didn't find you really needed movement speed that badly in this build. You're mostly just pocketing and standing beside your teammate, and then anybody that's fighting you, you're just smashing them with Rondell dagger while your heals are healing you like crazy. If you're ever getting into trouble, you have Dreamwalk to save you. Sometimes when I didn't need as much knowledge for my spells, I'd switch over to Brave Hunter Pants, and you can see our action speed goes up to 25%, and we get some movement speed as well from it. Another honorable mention for your chest piece, if you're going full healer and you don't really care about your action speed, you could get a golden robe. It's going to give you lots of HP and some more magic resist. So your magic resist goes up to 25%, down from 17. This is normal stuff on. This build's a ton of fun though. I wouldn't really recommend doing this solo unless you're already a decent MMR. Trying to climb through lower MMRs in arena with this build is really rough. It's very hard to carry solo with this build, but it pairs insanely well with a high PDR frontliner, like a fighter with full plate or a warlock with full plate. Or if you just have really good teammates that are good at kiting, you can help keep them full HP. So if the enemy team is trying to kill them with range damage and they're just kiting, you can keep them topped up, and it's very difficult to kill your teammates. But if you're playing with a more kiting style team, I'd recommend beefing up your move speed so that you're faster. You're playing with a frontline tank, you don't really need nearly as much movement speed, and that's why I was fine with 304 here. So if you want more move speed, either find some Lightfoot boots and raid with movement speed rolls, or craft yourself some Frostlight Lightfoot boots. You also run something like a Frostlight Cloak or Cloak of Darkness for more movement speed. The best stat you can build to increase your healing on yourself is buff duration bonus. Having more buff duration is going to increase the duration of those heal over times, which exponentially increases the amount of heals you're getting per heal. But buff duration, remember, is more selfish because it doesn't help your teammates at all. The only thing that's going to buff the heals on your teammates is their own buff duration personally and your magic heal. So building magic heal is more selfless and more team oriented, and buff duration is more selfish. Just keep that in mind. This build's a ton of fun though. It's easily the best support healer in the game. You have a ton of utility with the Thorn Barrier, the Entangling Vines, and the Summon Treant. And then your heals are just unmatched. And you get the nice Tree of Life, giving your teammates 3 all, and also 20 health over 8 seconds. Super powerful build when you pair it with a competent teammate or competent teammates. Best healer in the game. Try it out. Let me know how it goes for you guys. We've got Wizard, my personal favorite and my highest rated arena character, getting almost a Warlord, but well past Vanquisher. And let's go over my perks. We've got Ice Shield. With all this Ruby Silver that I'm wearing and Ice Shield combined, look at my PDR. 42 without, 45, almost 46 PDR with. This helps a lot because normally Rangers are going to 2-shot you, but if you have this much PDR, it's going to take them a lot more than 2 arrows to kill you. This helps a lot, as well as Ice Shield. If you get hit by a melee character that's chasing you, oftentimes it slows them enough for you to get a little bit of movement speed, or sorry, a little bit of distance because they're getting slowed down. It's gonna be really strong. But actually, because of the changes to magic power bonus, caster classes don't really do much damage anymore. So I actually think I'm gonna stop taking Ice Shield and I'm gonna test out running Mana Surge instead, because this is giving me 10 will worth of damage, and it's really hard to get magic power bonus now. So I'll test this out and let you know how it feels. Then we've got Quick Chant. Quick Chant I'm always going to run if I'm below 70% casting speed. So we take this off, we're at 63. This is just not enough. I like having a bare minimum of 70%. So there we go. This brings us up to 78%. 15% cast speed, Can't really go wrong. Really great perk. Fire Mastery. For arena, for trios, this is non-negotiable. You need this. There's so much healing in the game with Cleric, with Druid, with Second Wind, with potions. And it's pretty difficult to apply anti-heal. And Wizard has this awesome perk, Fire Mastery, and a lot of spells that can proc it. So Fireball can proc it, Zap can proc it, Explosion can proc it, so can Ignite. But Fire Mastery is really, really good. It's the only consistent counter to healing in this game, honestly, because it can be applied from range in an AoE. Very good perk. And then you're getting 5% bonus damage on those fire spells, so that's nice as well. Arcane Mastery is very, very good because it cuts down the cast time on your magic missile significantly. So when you're getting jumped and you have to use it in a pinch, you can get it off much faster. It can easily be the difference between life and death. It also turns Invis into an almost instant cast, which is really important for being able to pop this quickly and reposition. It can easily save your life. So Arcane Mastery is really, really strong. It also gives 5% bonus damage to your magic missile, but that part doesn't really do very much. It's mostly the 0.5% reduction in cast time. We'll go over some of the other good options. Ice Mastery is really good at kiting, but because you only get 5 ice bolts, feels kind of bad that it only works with 1 perk. I wish there was another ice spell. You get more value out of this, or if maybe we had more charges. Ice Shield we talked about, really, really strong, but given how much they've nerfed damage now on caster classes, I might actually be running Mana Surge instead of Ice Shield. We'll have to see. I'll have to test it out and I'll let you guys know. Melt is really good for physical damage teammates. So you're running with a ranger and a fighter. You cutting their physical damage reduction, the enemies, is going to mean that your ranger and your fighter are going to do way more damage to the enemy team. Just be careful because this is going to apply to your teammate as well. You're splashing your fighter, for example. You don't want to be cutting his physical damage reduction. Overall, it's a good spell. Reactive Shield is decent, but it's kind of tricky because it applies after a first instance of damage. So let's say you get hit with a bow, it procs the reactive shield, and the reactive shield can wear off pretty quickly, and then you don't really get any value out of it. So it's okay. It's better for like melee wizard, I would say. Sage, 10% knowledge bonus, really good, but it doesn't give you as much cast speed normally as quick chant does. You can see our cast speed is at 79%, for this on 73. So I care more about the flat cast speed, so I run quick chant instead. Spell overload can be really good, but man, the knowledge bonus being reduced by 20%. Knowledge is like one of your best stats. Throw this on, look how much cast speed you lose. You're down at 60%. It's pretty rough. It can be quite good, but you have to really build a lot of knowledge and cast speed to make up for the 20% loss. I personally prefer just running 10 spell. And then you can either run 10 spell like I do, or you could run Arcane Shield, is pretty decent, and Instacast is also quite good. For Arena, Meditate is absolutely terrible, but it's almost kind of necessary for the dungeon if you're clearing it all, because otherwise you're clearing like a room and then campfiring on every room you clear. It's way too tedious to clear on Wizard. So Meditate is pretty damn good in the regular dungeon. Problem with that is now you're down a combat perk or a bunch of spells just so that you can clear mobs, and most classes don't have to take a skill, just they can clear mobs. So kind of sucks for Wizard. I don't wish this was built in, to be honest. But now if you are running Arcane Shield or Intense Focus, I would recommend stacking more knowledge and then going spell overload, just because you're going to run out of spells going 5 spell without running overload. For our 10 spell setup, we've got our fireball, our explosion, got our zap, and our ice bolts. This is good for kiting. Fire spells are good for proccing our fire mastery and just dealing a lot of damage. Overall, these are kind of the bread and butter. And then lightning strike is really good for if you have a frontliner that's fighting in front of you, you can kind of shoot past them. Also good for hitting around corners. Chain lightning is really good in certain scenarios, but it can also get you killed or kill your team very easily. So be very careful how you use this. Then haste and invis are just our general buffs to ourselves and our teammates. Invis is especially strong. And then we take light orb so that we can spot out rogues. The main thing, cutthroat rogue will completely destroy you. So if you can light orb, it's pretty good in arena because you kind of know where the rogues are coming from. There's only so many options they can come from. In the regular dungeon, light orb kind of sucks because there's just too many areas the rogue can come from and they can kind of work around the light orbs. But in arena, it's quite good into rogues. I always run this in arena. Magic lock's kind of a meme. Some people like it and you can get some value out of it. I don't find that I've really gotten much value out of it other than just like trolling people by locking them in a room, but I don't personally think that's a very fun way to play. Slow used to be quite good, but they've nerfed it a lot and you're only getting 3 charges. I don't think slow is that important. It also doesn't do any damage, so you have to sacrifice another damage spell, but it can be all right. I just wish it had more charges like it used to. Then ignite. Ignite can be quite good if you have a teammate that benefits a lot from it. For example, a Demon's Glee fighter can benefit a lot from Ignite, so can a Barbarian, but they already do so much damage on their own that usually Ignite isn't really the difference. So unless you're running an Ignite build on Wizard, then I don't really recommend taking it. So you can see I've got my PDR, slow, very high HP, 146 build. And then I have some move speed swaps. So I'm at 302 move speed. If I throw on my move speed gear, I'm at 319. And then same thing with the Warlock, because I'm usually running Manosphere because it does the most damage because of that 2 extra true magic damage. And you get 2 will, 2 knowledge on it as well. But you lose 15 movement speed compared to the 10 movement speed on Spellbook. If I need every single movement speed I can get because I'm kiting like a Barbarian, for example, that's running at me, then I might switch. But if I can get away with it, I'm going to use the Manosphere for that extra damage. And if I don't need movement speed, then I'm going to be wearing my high PDR and HP set. You're going to want 1 all attributes on all your rings and necklaces if you can help it. Max health on your necklace, and you definitely want a choker. Epic choker at least. Legendary is ideal because you need that true magic damage to deal damage. Same thing with your rings. You need true magic on your rings and true magic damage on your hood. Then we're just going to try to get as much flat HP and knowledge as we can get. So knowledge, vigor, and because I'm going for high PDR, I'm also looking for armor rating rolls. Knowledge, max health, armor, knowledge, max health, armor, vigor, agility, max health on my ruby silver gloves, giving me knowledge and will. Max health, movement speed on my boots, PDR, magic resist, vigor, my cape, max health, vigor, true magic damage, PDR, and then just your best crystal sword. I got lucky and found a legendary one. You also craft one. And Ruby Silver Hood is one of the best headpieces for a wizard because you get 5 vigor, like the leather cap. Usually people wear leather caps in the normal dungeon, but you're getting an extra 15 magic resist on the hood. You just get that extra boost of magic resist, which is quite nice. And then for my pants, vigor, max health, 2 knowledge would be kind of the best third roll. Max health, magic damage bonus on your spellbook. Magic power would be the best final roll. Cloak of darkness, make sure it's at least 1.3% move speed bonus, ideally 1.5. True magic damage, max health, cast speed are all good rolls. And then Lightfoot boots, 2 knowledge, add move speed, max health, will, all good rolls. As long as your cast speed's above 70%, as long as you have true damage on your rings, head slot, necklace, cape, then you're pretty much going to be chilling, and then you just want as much move speed, health, PDR, MR, and magic power bonus as you can. Although now magic power bonus doesn't really get you very far. I think my magic power bonus in this kit used to be 60% or something. Now we're only at 21. So that was a huge nerf they did to all casters across the board. That's why I'm considering taking off Ice Shield to get that extra 10% with my perk. But yeah, there you go. That is the build that I would run to dominate in arena. All right, we've got Bard. Charismatic performance, pretty much non-negotiable. Helps speed up your songs. No reason not to take this. If you're running Rapier, you're always going to go Rapier Mastery. If you're not running Rapier, you're running something like Rondell Dagger. Then you could take this off and run something else. Storyteller is quite good because ideally you want your teammates to be Cleric, Wizard, Warlock, and that way they're getting a lot of value from the 3 will and the 3 knowledge. It's also really good for yourself because then you don't need to build as much memory capacity or knowledge to be able to get your music. War Song is very good for buffing yourself or buffing any of your physical damage teammates. And then some honorable mentions. Dancing Feet is pretty good if you're playing to debuff and buff your team. Vermata is decent, although it's not as good in arena because you don't need the duration as much. This is a really good spell in the normal dungeon though. Lore Mastery is good in the regular dungeon, not so much in arena. If you're like full support druid and you're just spam playing like Celerando and Allegro, you can go melodic protection, but pretty uncommon that people run this. And then Superior Dex is also a great option, but because we have so much action speed and dex, we already switch weapons so quickly that you don't really need it that bad. So we always go 10 spell, or if you wanted, you could go Dissonance. Pretty good in arena. You're gonna AoE silence them for 3 seconds and it doesn't silence your teammates. But if you go 10 spell, then you can always just run Song of Silence. It does work against your teammates though, which does suck, but then you get access to a lot more utility compared to running the Dissonance perk. Encore is a complete joke. You would never run this, and same with Party Maker. So bread and butter, we're going to run our self buffs, Rousing Rhythms, Beats of Alacrity, Aria of Alacrity, and Ballad of Courage. And then we've got our Shriek of Weakness to debuff enemies, cutting their armor rating and their physical power. We have Lament to slow our enemies down, Silence to slow any casters down. It's very, very good into caster classes. And then we've got our Allegro and our Celerando to buff ourselves and our teammates with action speed and movement speed. This is actually crazy. With Rapier in hand, Rapier Mastery, and Allegro, I think I was hitting 70% action speed. Kind of crazy. And then Unchained Harmony is really good in the normal dungeon. If you're running arenas, then you could run something like Den of Darkness, deal with Rat Rogues. Piercing Shrill can also deal with Rat Rogues. Or if you have teammates that are purely caster teammates, and the enemy team has characters that need to swing their weapons or shoot their bow, you can use Peacemake, and your teammates can still cast their spells, and the enemies can't swing anything. Actually a pretty good combination. For our gear, you can either run Rondell Dagger or Rapier. I like Lantern Shield a lot because the parry on it is quite nice. You can run Survival Bow, or you can run Crossbow. I think Crossbow in Arena is generally a lot better, but Survival Bow is better for solos, and it does scale decently well if you have true damage and everything, which I do. Got true damage in our necklace, true damage on our rings, our gloves, and on our cape. Golden Leaf Hood is pretty much best in slot for Bard, getting 5 vigor, magic resist, and then look for some decent rolls like dex, action speed, strength, max health, vigor, etc. Ruby Silver Doublet is a very good craftable for Bard. I think the best chess piece is Heavy Gambeson, but if you don't have a good Heavy Gambeson with a lot of armor rating on it, then Ruby Silver Doublet is your best craftable chess piece. Brave Hunters are going to be your best pants unless you find really good heavy leathers in dungeon with double armor ratings, and then you can stack that with your Heavy Gambeson and you can get very high PDR. If you have a PDR build, I'd also recommend running Harmonic Shield for that extra 15 armor and MR. You can run leather gloves or you can run strength gloves. Just make sure you have true fizz on it and get some good rolls like vigor, health. I only use adventure boots in raid. They're pretty damn good. You can also craft yourself some ruby silver adventurer boots. And I think Grimspell rings are probably the best. Try to get 1 all attributes if you can on them. Then I went for a Cloak of Darkness just to give me more movement speed. I'm actually quite fast at 309 even without Lightfoot boots. If I put my Lightfoot boots on, I'm at 316. And that's before I play my songs. I'm actually much closer to like well above 320. Alternatively, if you didn't want to build as much movement speed for your cape, you get something with vigor or dex or strength on your cape. You can see our action speed is really high, and that's intentional because we have a lot of quick hitting weapons and a lot of true damage, so I want to be able to hit faster with survival bow and rapier or a rondel dagger. But if I had a crossbow, like a really nice crossbow, I might go a little bit less action speed and build more physical power bonus, because you can see I have very low physical power bonus. With crossbow, it has higher base damage, so you're going to get a lot more value out of physical power bonus, and in which case you could also run even a falchion instead of your rapier or your rondel dagger, although rapier still does scale decently well with physical power bonus. We're at 30% PDR. The higher the better, especially if you're running that PDR version, something more like this. Yeah, that is my arena build for Bard. I think it pairs best, honestly, with caster classes that benefit from the knowledge and the will, and then you can do some pretty cool stuff helping your teammates kite with Lament, buffing them up with Allegro and Accelerando, or Peacemaking. You can also just play as a frontliner for your caster teammates and you end up giving them a lot of stats. You're giving them 5 will, 5 knowledge in total combined with your music, so it's very good. Definitely try it out. Make sure you got true damage on everything as usual, and let me know how it goes for you guys. All right, let's talk about Sorc. So Sorc is really tricky to discuss because they keep changing things drastically. It's like every patch I have to completely change what I'm building, but I think we're in kind of a more stable spot. I hope. I don't know, maybe they're going to make more changes. Spell sculpting, you always need this because you need the range to be able to compete with the other classes. The class just feels, it already feels low range with this, and you take this off and it feels like the class is like unplayable. So I always run spell sculpting. And then mana flow is your pretty much your best damage option. You're averaging like 15% magic damage bonus for your spells, just on average, because you're getting like 0, 10, 15, 30. So you're kind of averaging out at about 15. And that's a lot more than 5, you know, averaging at like 15. So this is your pretty much your best damage perk other than Apex, which is 50. But again, you get rooted in place and you don't have instacast, so kind of sucks. And then spell merge, it also really sucks that you even need a perk for this, but you just have to burn a perk if you're going to do a merge build or a hybrid build. You can only take this off if you're doing pure caster with a spell book. And then if you were to take this off, then you could run spell stride because you'd be faster while you're casting would be an option. Or you could run elemental, but again, it's not that useful because your cooldowns are already low. Or you can run apex with a book. And that was kind of the old best build, I thought. But if you're to do that, you're going to have to drop your cast speed down a bit and then start building a bunch of action speed so that you can still jump cast and then you don't get rooted for as long. Like it is playable, but it's just awkward again without instacast, because before you could just go instacast and then build action speed and ignore your spellcasting speed, but now you need too many things all at once. Okay, so the other option is Air Mastery. Air Mastery is honestly not that good, but there just aren't really very many appealing options. So running Air Mastery is decent because it's at least bringing back some of that damage that we're missing. Like we really just lack damage. So, you know, we're getting our average 15% here, and then we're getting an extra 50. So every time we wind blast, it's on a 5-second cooldown. We're getting 5 extra damage on our wind blast with Air Mastery, roughly. So it's something. And then they get blown back further, so that's also decent. And then the other thing too is if you hit them with Vortex, it's going to be extra damage on that, and it's going to send them further, which is pretty decent. And then another tip for Air Mastery is that it works with the merge spell Lightning Vortex. So you can actually play for merging this and the damage is 30 lightning slash air. So I believe the damage 50% bonus will apply to the full 30, which is it's a lot higher than 10 and 15, right? 30. So the extra 50% damage bonus is significant in this case. It's like 15 or higher, where I guess it's about 15 damage because you have to do it with your bare hands, no spellbook. So yeah, extra 15 damage on your lightning vortex from running air mastery, and they get pushed back further. So that's decent. And then for the spells, basically I don't run stone skin because I'm not going melee, and 10% PDR is just not worth losing 5 movement speed. It doesn't really make enough of a difference. Glaciate works with the merge spell Frost Breath, but I've tried Frost Breath. I think it's really bad. It's really low range, and then you waste your Wind Blast. If you're Frost Breathing, you probably just want to be Wind Blasting. So yeah, it's just kind of a worse version of Wind Blast, in my opinion, because they don't get knocked back. And then you have to also merge it. So, and then you have to waste a slot. So I don't ever run Glaciate again. And I get like more of a melee build. You're going to actually use it for your weapon. And then Fire Orb is quite good. Fire Orb is flex to me. Sometimes I'll take off Levitate and I'll run Fire Orb. And other times I'll run Levitate. And this is kind of when I run Levitate, it's mostly for Lightning Storm. And that's the other thing. You can kind of run a cheese build with Apex, because Apex is still really good if you're running Lightning Storm, because you're going to be rooted in place anyways while you're lightning storming, and it's just giving you 50% damage bonus on your lightning storm. And it also ticks faster on the storm because cast speed makes the lightning storm tick faster and end quicker. So it deals more damage in a shorter period of time. It's the same damage, but it's quicker. So that is kind of a cheese build that you can run, but then it makes everything else really bad. Yeah. So, and you're so susceptible, like you already get 2 or 3 shot by rangers. So if you're running Apex and you're like trying to lightning storm or trying to do other things, like you just get, let's say 2 or 3 of them have ranged weapons, crossbows or bows, you're dead in an instant and you're standing still for every spell cast. So you're just a sitting duck. Like you jump cast one thing and you get hit by 3 arrows, or a combination of arrows and bolts. 3 of them hit you and you're dead. So getting rooted in place is so terrible. So I think Apex is pretty much dead. All right, so the merge build is straight up like you're going to be relying on elemental bolt, and if they get up close, you can frost lightning them to freeze them in place. And then while they're frozen, you can try to cast an elemental bolt as quick as you can and try to land it while they're still frozen. But usually it's too slow, and you have to kind of aim left or right depending on where they're going to juke after the frost lightning route ends. Also, the frost lightning route is inconsistent because all they have to do is strafe left or right when it hits them, and there's a delay on it, so it'll do lightning damage and then it'll freeze after the fact, like after 1 second. But all they have to do is step to the side during that 1 second. So as people learn that, this is going to become less and less effective. They kind of have to be like running in a straight line at you. And then Wall of Fire is really good. So you can merge this and you can spam this. It's on a 10-second cooldown, and it burns for, how long does it say it lasts for? 12 seconds. So you can basically have 2 up at the same time with like a 2-second overlap and just constantly be pumping these out. Yeah, Wall of Fire is pretty good. And then Lightning Vortex is quite good for self-peel, but again, against any ranged classes, it doesn't really do anything because they're not going to be in melee. And then against Barbarian, it's pretty useless. It just does damage because it's not going to knock them back because of Iron Will. And if a fighter has Breakthrough, it doesn't do anything either other than just damage. So it's just, again, it's kind of a win more situation where you're already beating a fighter or a cleric and you're just going to like knock them back and infinitely wind blast them over and over again because you already win that matchup unless they pull out a bow or use range damage. And Lightning Storm is always quite good. And then yeah, if you do run Apex, then it makes this super powerful. But against good players, they're just going to hit you with range damage and you're going to die while this is going off. But if you're against bad players and you just throw out a Lightning Storm, it can absolutely cook. You can like deal 80% of somebody's life if they just sit in it and they have low magic resist. So that's decent. And then you got your merge for your teleport is decent for repositioning and stuff. This is kind of the hybrid build. And then if you were to go take off spell merge and have actually first, if you were to do a pure 2-handed like caster merge build and you're just merging every spell, you can take off air mastery and instead you could run Merge Might, and then you get that movement speed after every cast, and that way you're a lot more mobile because you're going to be quite slow casting with 2 hands. You're slowed down a lot while doing so. Or you can do spell merge only and cheese with Apex of Sorcery, and you're basically just playing for Lightning Storm, and then everything else is weaker because you're a sitting duck during it, but you're just like a Lightning Storm cheeser. What else? Yeah, and then there's the spellbook build, which I think is significantly weaker because it kind of was contingent on Apex, and now Apex is really bad. So you could take off Spell Merge and instead you could run, I mean, you could try Apex, but like every cast you're rooted and it feels so clunky without it being instant cast. You're going to want to build a bunch of action speed and then you just run around with a spell book and you spam out Fire Arrow every 5 seconds and you spam out, instead of Levitate, you probably take Fire Orb. And then you're basically just spamming Fire Arrow, your Flame Strike and Eruption under their feet. You're throwing out Ice Spear and like this spell completely sucks. It's super inconsistent. They kind of have to walk into it because it's so delayed and it's so slow travel time. But like it's like one of your only spells from a distance, so you can just throw it out across the map and hope that it hits something. This is also like super low range, doesn't do anything unless they're in your face, and then if they're in your face it damages you when it pops, and it doesn't nuke like it used to. So usually if they're getting up to you and you throw this out as like a kamikaze, it's not going to kill them and then they're just going to kill you. So yeah, you're going to be basically playing for Vortex to self-peel, Wind Blast to self-peel, Lightning Sphere to self-peel, kind of just alternating between these three. Keep people off of you as best you can. Again, it won't do much into Barbs though, because Barbs will just ignore this and run straight at you. And then you're just going to throw out Fire Arrows and Eruptions and Flame Strikes. And then you can like cheese with Lightning Bolt with your book out because it does extra damage that way. But overall, the class feels pretty damn cooked, even with running Apex for the extra damage, because Apex just feels terrible now without Time Distortion. But those are the builds, and it's going to be applicable. If they buff numbers on Sorc, then these builds could become extremely powerful, and you kind of know the strengths and weaknesses of them. Oh yeah, one last thing. If they rebuffed Mud Shield, that would help a lot too, because Mud Shield really helped you get into range of rangers and any kind of bows, because you need to get in close on them, and you used to be able to pop Mud Shield and then run up and use it as like semi cover. But now it only lasts 4 seconds, so by the time you cast it, it's like feels like it wears off almost immediately. You like try to get in range and then it wears off, and then you're just getting pelted by arrows. So Mud Shield is pretty bad now. I don't run Mud Shield anymore, whereas I used to run it. So yeah, that's how the class is functioning right now. It feels pretty weak, but it still feels fun. You have to hit so many spells to kill anybody, but Sorc is really fun, just being able to throw out spells and have low cooldowns and play like a machine gun. It's a lot more fun than Ranger, in my opinion, because Ranger is just the same exact quote-unquote spell over and over and over again, racking your same bow, same trajectory, same speed. Whereas this is like, I'm going to Fire Arrow, then I'm going to Flame Strike their feet, and then I'm going to Eruption their feet, then I'm going to throw out an Ice Spear, and then I'm going to Wind Blast them, and then I'm going to Lightning Bolt them. Like, there's a lot more thinking that goes into it. It's just, it feels like you have to work 10 times harder, do 10 times as much thinking that a Ranger does, and the Ranger is just dealing double or more your damage for way less effort. So yeah, Sorc feels pretty bad right now. But like I said, this information that I gave you, these different builds and these spells, are the tools that you're going to need to make a very powerful build. If they change some numbers around, then these builds could become super powerful. And if they revert Time Distortion back to kind of what it was, then the Time Distortion build will come back, and that would look something like Time Distortion. I would always run Spell Sculpting, and I would probably always still run Mana Flow too, and then I would just probably go back to Apex, because these kind of combo well together. And then you want to build action speed, and you ignore your spellcast speed, so you actually just build a bunch of action speed. If they buff this, then you could focus on HP and PDR and movement speed. You don't really care about magic power anymore, because you just don't get good value out of building anything. Like, it used to be twice as valuable to build Will, and Will already wasn't that great of a stat, and now it's cut in half. So you don't even have to really worry about Will, you just ignore it. You would just build Dex, move speed, action speed, and then if you're not running TD, because right now it sucks, then you're going to focus on cast speed and move speed, health, armor, PDR. That's pretty much it. And then we'll go over the build. Of course, you always need true damage on everything, and then you also want 1 all attributes if you can get it on your rings. So true magic is the most important, and then all attributes is second most important on your ring slots. Then you need true magic on your cape is the most important thing, and true magic on your head slot, and then everything else is just going to be based on whatever build you're going. You're either going Time Distortion with make sure you build some resourcefulness too. It would be Dex, action speed, and resourcefulness for the Time Distortion build. And then for the non-Time Distortion build, you're just going to try to stack as much knowledge as you can get, so that you can pump up that cast speed to a reasonable level. So then you're just going to build a bunch of knowledge pieces and vigor. You've got a lot of HP here, 36 vigor, and movement speed with these life of boots. And I've got my swap here. Get up to 310 if I need. We'll hover over the gear. 1 all, true magic, max health, knowledge, max health, true magic, knowledge, max health, will, magic damage bonus, vigor, max health, cast speed, knowledge, vigor, knowledge, magic power, knowledge, 1 all, true magic, knowledge, 1 all, true magic, move speed, max health, knowledge, vigor, max health, true magic on my cape, my book, is action speed, max health, magic damage bonus, and some buff duration bonus. I socketed this just because I'm sharing this book with my wizard, and the buff duration is nice for wizard. I don't think that the buff duration is that useful for sorcerer, to be honest, but I guess it helps with lightning sphere if you're casting it with your book out. That's about it. And then I always go void blade or longsword, because if you go crystal sword, it's actually just super troll because you have to drop a spell. Otherwise you can't swing it. It'll do a cast animation, and casting with the crystal sword's troll. So yeah, you just can't swing with it. So you're just relegated to only using longsword or void blade, which is fine because void blade and longsword are like good weapons, but it kind of sucks that you don't get to build crystal sword to benefit from like the true magic. But void blade does benefit from true magic. Anyways, that's where Sork is currently at. If you want to do damage and have fun and play a range class, play ranger, unless they've buffed Sork and it's in a better spot, and you can use one of the builds that I talked about along with those buffs, and it'll be really good. Or if you just want to have fun because you really love sorcerer, you want to try and make it work, then this is what I would recommend running. And then this is the hybrid build that I'm talking about: spell merge, air mastery, mana flow, spell sculpting.